doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
This is a special report.
Knowing how to invest your money is harder than ever before. Dealing with stock market volatility, record debt, and terrorist attacks requires new thinking. At U.S. Asset Management, we can help you see the world more clearly so that you can move beyond the chaos and invest with confidence. Call us, visit us online, or drop by our office. U.S. Asset Management, helping you make better decisions with your money.
So we are lucky and honored to have with us Michael Daugherty. He is the author of The Devil Inside The Beltway. He has been, well, he was one of the original guys attacked by the deep state over a decade ago, fought and won some, lost some in court. But Mike, with the Perkins Coie issue that came up yesterday, I thought of you, man. I got to call this guy. So what are your thoughts?
God, I hate their guts. Anyway. They get away with it. They get away with it. I was so excited. I love Emerald. I was like, great. It's sad that it's so exciting to have a scintilla of accountability. Because as you know, and your audience might not know, after the 2020 election, I filed a lawsuit not about Trump, but about the Georgia senator election and the senators and the complete, and I got to sit on the 50-yard line, as naive as I am not, and watch this orchestrated show that is being really done in open court in front of the public, but because the public is lied to by a media that, tells half-truths, and politicians on both sides of the aisle, this is you, Georgia GOP, that is just covering things up and whistling past the graveyard. It's a lot to take in. In that specific case, Perkins Coie comes in defending, once they get whiff of the lawsuit. I also took it as flattery that our lawsuit had teeth, because here come the big guns. Because
I was in the courtroom, so I saw all this happen.
They just, the case basically was that they violated all these election rules, and we have to stop and be able to examine these things. And what I learned the hard way, and this is that with election law, I believe in the United States, there's not a judge on the planet that wants election law in their courtroom.
Yeah.
And the excuse they use is there's fraud all the time, but you have to prove that the fraud impacted the election. Well, how are you supposed to do that without the levers and powers of litigation through discovery? And what I witnessed was conservative Republican appoint judge it's almost like he had a spring in his chair. He dismissed the case after the hearing so fast. He disappeared. He literally made his ruling and was gone.
It was like a Jack in the Box when you turn the handle and it moved.
I know, it was like a TV show. It's like, where'd he go? Case dismissed. Choom. And then by this time, then you get into your own lawyers intimidated. And it's a whole behind the scenes secondary racket of what goes on. And we have so many assumptions and trusts that are violated in every corner of the political system in this country. And the judiciary, it's that, well, we don't want election law, so we're going to dismiss this because we're going to say, yeah, there might have been fraud, but it didn't impact the election. But we're not going to give you a platform to have discovery. And then the media will gaslight that all these election law cases were all tossed out and they all lost, which is a classic media half-truth, because, they all lost. Because the judges never allowed discovery. So guess what? You can't prove your case if we don't let you look. So, and so this is, and I understand in principle why they don't want to have elections in their courtrooms, because if you think conservatives go rabid, they're nothing compared to Democrats. Look at the speech a few days ago. And so if when they lose in court, they would lose elections, they would flood the court system if they could. I do understand that point of view, There has to be a different solution. So Perkins Coie is the pit bull of this. And I have to say that that lawyer came in because they have money, money, and money.
Mm-hmm.
And the person has the most organization and the most knowledge in court wins. And that lawyer came in not flashy, not theatrical. She came in just almost boringly organized.
Yeah.
And then she floats this excuse, which is what I call the famous judicial toilet flush, which is called latches, where they can just have a discretionary opinion that the accused party didn't have. We waited too long because filing in January from a November election is too long.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're saddled with a lawyer who's intimidated, an American Bar Association that's now let other lawyers file grievances against lawyers when they're not involved in the case. They suddenly have standing. You have an intimidation racket set up in place so that any lawyer that's going to represent you is almost like got to set his career on fire. And so that works because then you can't get anyone to defend you, or it's going to break you financially, and you're dead before you even get to the stage. And that's the game. And Perkins Coie pulls that crap. So, for example, when the Arizona world went nuts in 2020 and talked about what they had seen on the ground, election workers, Perkins Coie did what you could say is aggressive but not illegal tactics of sending litigation hold letters to people that don't know what a litigation hold letter is, don't have the money to know, and just again, it's scorched earth, scare the world because they've got so much money to intimidate everyone and to attack Americans that are hardworking, middle-class people that don't have the interest, time, and luckily the life experience to take that on. And it works. So to hold those SOBs accountable by taking away their... So when I heard they even had a security clearance, I'm like, this is terrifying. Covington, the land of Eric Holder and Perkins, are you kidding me? I mean, why don't we just set the Clintons and the Obamas up in the Oval Office or give them a 24-hour, remote video? It's insane. So that's my short summary of what I think.
I wonder if that will have an impact or not. I mean, obviously they may have a clearance, but they are not read into certain programs or whatever. You have to have different access. But
now,
will that impact them, do you think, at all? I mean, it'll...
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it is a little perfunctory. I don't know. Maybe not now. But my whole thing is we have got to learn how much access enemies of American ideals have when Americans elect enemies of American ideals.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah.
And so it's a metastatic cancer, and they enter, and to give security clearances and let them in. This is the big lesson of what happens if you're a passive citizen, don't vote. No one's saying you have to have a full-time career as a political activist. All you have to do is vote, not be bamboozled, and understand what's going on right now. Now, clearly, it's been a great thing. The last decade has woken a lot of people up. There's still stuff.
You've been like blowing the horn now for almost 20 years. And you would always be so upset about what happens in the courtroom. And people don't know what's going on. They think they have a courtroom where they can get justice, and that's just not it. So
I have seen the most appalling behavior. And I have to say, I've also seen phenomenal judges, and I've discussed this with federal appellate court judges in social situations, and one of them said to me, look, the founding fathers, you could say, probably made a mistake, right? In the creating the judicial branch, they did create a branch that has some degree of absolute power. And the lifetime, look at Amy Coney Barrett right now, everyone's going nuts over her and what she's doing. I mean, you appoint these people, you vet them, and then they get the lifetime appointments, and then the real person comes out. I'm like, what on earth? What planet did you come from? And that's a mistake. What he said that I laughed out loud, and he also laughed too, was like, well, the founding fathers thought that the judges would police each other. And I was like, all right. Yeah, like doctors police each other, media polices each other, lawyers police each other. Sure. And so, and yet I've had highly effective, high ethics, really serious, brilliant judges. They absolutely exist. And it's not because they ruled for me, believe me. I've got more losses than wins. But I call it the long slog of Justice Mountain. And one of the dirty things I've learned is your judge is only good as their mother raised them. Mm-hmm. They can get away. I have seen shocking behavior, and I had one judge in Pittsburgh, and I was screaming about how awful she was, really. And my lawyers were like, basically my lawyers finally just said, look, shut up. Don't say it publicly. It just makes you look like you're having a bad attitude about your case. Mm-hmm. And 2 months later, she gets arrested for drunk driving, so drunk they can't read her Miranda rights. And then in the press, the chief judge says, oh, she's only reading civil cases, not criminal, so it's fine. She stays on the bench. She later gets promoted. It's beyond comprehension. Once again, the behavior is so shocking that when you, as the person that's experienced the behavior, tell someone else, they think you must be embellishing.
Yeah.
They think you must be, which is the one thing I love about the court is I have the transcripts. So, and dealing with the government, I had transcripts and letters. So that's why I thought when I wrote my book, oh my gosh, there were things in my book I didn't write because I know them now, didn't know them at all. So it's insane that people think you're nuts, but I have transcripts. So thank God I had transcripts, because then I'm like, when I speak publicly, I don't really have what I say up there. I have what the court said, because people will still believe, transcripts, because then I'm out of it.
Right.
Like, you read it, you decide. Isn't this appalling? And so anyway,
where are do you have any ongoing lawsuits now that you want?
Are you kidding me? Yes, I have. I have a law. The Third Circuit overturned a dismissal of one of my cases in Pittsburgh. It's been going on for 10 years, where I sued for defamation. I have a case up in Georgia waiting for arbitration. It is, but you have to. The system's really infected, and the system is sick. Not only the process, it's hard because it's hard to explain to someone that hasn't gone through it before. And I was never in a courtroom myself until I was 47, and now I'm a veteran. And I'm like, and if you're a lawyer, you can't talk about this.
Yeah.
If you want to have a legal career, forget it. It's kind of like real estate agents. Their mortgage brokers and their bankers and their inspectors are with them all the time. The client's with them once, right?
Right.
Same thing with the judges. Like the lawyer's in front of the judge, in front of the judge, in front of the judge. It's a small town, in front of the judge. The client comes and goes. So there's a whole silent thing going on between lawyers on opposing sides and judges, and let's all get along, and I'm my courtroom this way. And the plaintiff and the defendant are like ancillary.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they all pat themselves on the back. It's the biggest hot air self-congratulatory orgy I think you could ever see of these people.
Let me ask you this: we joined RFK's case at his request against the Trusted News Initiative. It was originally filed in Louisiana. It's against Washington Post and BBC,
right?
And so they got it moved to New York, and then moved it to DC, and it's been there for a year and a half, and the judge won't even respond to the motions.
All right. So I'm glad you brought that up. Okay. So there's all these. I feel like I want to write a book about the tricks of the courtroom that lawyers can never tell you. Judges have discretion.
Yeah.
And that is what I call the judicial toilet flush.
Yeah.
Judges have the most dirty tricks, and these are the honorable, ethical ones.
Mm-hmm.
How do judges kill a case? They don't. They start it. They put it out in it. So, how do lawyers kill a case? They forum shop. So where have you been? Texas, New York?
We started in Louisiana, then
Louisiana.
It was moved to New York and then to DC.
Wow, what a shock. They want to get out of Louisiana.
Yeah, very, very interesting, right?
And so and then you go to and New York ain't no party.
Yeah, I know.
And then you end up in DC. So now what does your lawyer want to do? Maybe
Well, I don't want to get into that on national.
Right. Well, I did not mean that specifically.
Yeah.
I meant that generally. What does a lawyer want to do? Not piss off.
Right now, it seems like everybody's just like waiting, you know? So
you can write a lawyer, you can write a letter to the attorney. I had a case in Cobb County, Georgia, where I got hosed by a law firm so badly. They literally went up and stabbed me in the back. And anyway, long story short, the bottom line is the judge had a hearing. He said he'd rule in 60 days. He disappeared for a year. He never responded. The opposing counsel wrote a letter to please rule if possible. He was up for election. He lost the election. The replacement person comes in from the other party. The Democrats purged Cobb County. That's a whole other story. They go into his office. I find out 2 years later, find a mess. There's all these cases he hadn't ruled on stacked up. No one babysits these people. And they violate, and there's no account. The key is what's going to happen to them? 0, 0, and 0.
yeah.
And then the chief judge gets it, and he's out here at 40,000 feet. And what's his agenda? Oh, I got to clean up the docket. Oh, no. Dismiss, 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 dismiss. Okay. Now you're sitting here as a normal American, not a Perkins Coie funded by Soros machine of evil. And you don't have a ton of money. You've spent 30, 40 grand maybe. Your lawyer ain't working for free.
Yeah.
Your lawyers are just feeding off the fight. Parasites on the poop. They're just like, oh, more trauma, more drama, more money for me. Yippee-yi-yay. Okay. You want to fight this? More money for me. And then you get to fight it up to the appellate court. Is the appellate court want to take on judges? Because they have discretion. Does the appellate court want to admit they have a judicial problem? No. Mm-hmm. Does the public have experience in courts to understand this goes on all the time? No. What does the media do? There's an article right now. I saw it on the plane coming up. I'm in Michigan right now, and there's an article on the plane. I didn't read it. I just saw the headlines. So I have to read it. But it was about, SCOTUS is concerned about, or Gorsuch maybe, and Amy Coney concerned about constant criticism of the judiciary by Trump. I'm like,
yeah.
I mean, that sanctimonious bubble has got to be popped, and we don't throw the baby out the bed. It's lack of accountability, sanctimony, lack of professionalism, sitting on your docket. I mean, it's crazy. And
so what do you think about, sorry to interrupt, but
that's right.
This whole concept that a district court can basically run the foreign policy of the United States by stopping the president whenever they want.
This is absolutely not new. This happened the first time the Trump administration. This has happened before. And again, the power grid loves this stuff, right? I mean, this is a tool. If you're a senator, especially now a Democratic senator, or you're Mitch McConnell, Mitch McConnell got a lot of people that hated his guts because he was a master of the rules, and who knew how to use the rules to tip the entire cart over. And this rule right now that these district courts can pull this never comes into the media's attention, the public's attention, when there's a Democrat in the White House. It just doesn't happen, because that's how they get to control what they want, and that's how they get to suppress the big evil Republicans. And as long as we have this stupid narrative that's a holdover from the middle 20th century that Republicans bad, Democrats good, it's so old, and it should be gone so long ago. Only idiots really still think this, and
Yeah, that paradigm doesn't exist anymore.
but
Yeah.
there are still tons of useful idiots that see this. So
Yeah.
right now, that's what's happening. My point is, they've had more than one opportunity to get rid of this. This should have been adjudicated all the way to the Supreme Court and gotten a ruling. It didn't. It needs to happen to now. And it's the long slog up Justice Mountain. And here's what's going to happen, right? You go up there, and then you're going to have the media industrial complex screaming, Republicans and conservatives don't want to have judges making decisions. They're preventing people from speaking. I'm like, look, this bozo in Washington State should not be able to trip up the entire country. That's what the Supreme Court is for. But here's the thing the public doesn't understand, that they're allowed. This is one of the biggest misconceptions, that they are allowed that the judiciary allows to continue. The Supreme Court role is not to correct lower court error. It is not. And you know who told me this was in Park City, Utah. I took a separation of powers class from Scalia. And Scalia told me this. He was really agitated with me because I said the judiciary needs to do a better job of educating the American public of what the role of the Supreme Court really is. And he's like, oh, sure. He's like, he was so hilarious and pithy and funny and brilliant and could cut you down in 3 seconds. And he said the Supreme Court's role has not been to correct lower court error in 100 years. It's been to correct conflicts between the courts. So he said, I can't tell how many times I've gone through these cases we get asked to hear, and I think, my God, they screw it up, but we don't take it. Okay, but people don't understand that, right? And so if the Supreme Court's not going to correct lower court error, and they're not going to worry about these renegade judges because it's not a conflict between the districts, then this is another great mechanism that has sort of grown up over gaming the system over the past century that no one will take, because both political sides kind of like it until they lose, right?
So what I know you're not a constitutional attorney, but what if Trump just said, sorry, that's not in the Constitution?
Well, that's got to be the Supreme Court that says that, right? But I don't know how he can ram it up. He's got to. I mean, they don't look at what Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts. I mean, I call the Bushes Ronald Reagan's biggest mistake, and John Roberts Bush's biggest mistake. That guy, talk about right place, right time, and thank you to him for Obamacare.
I don't think it was a mistake, but go ahead.
Thank you to him for all the terrors you will not know in your day-to-day life until you have the unfortunate experience of being in a hospital long-term in this country today, or a courtroom. Thank you, John Roberts. And the same thing with this. So now we have the executive branch. Listen, these bureaucrats, judges, everyone's in the government complex, regardless of size. And maybe I shouldn't say everyone, but almost everyone likes their power. Who doesn't? Who doesn't like to get across the bridge and sit there and be secure and fasting and happy the rest of your days? And they don't like this, and democracy is mess. And as long as the country wants peace and quiet, you're going to get a cemetery.
Well, you're getting that kind of now, like, as you said, we don't like this criticism of the courts. I mean, so they're starting to react to not having peace and quiet.
Listen, when Gorsuch was up for his seat, and Trump had appointed him, and Trump went on a tirade about judges in general, Gorsuch put out a statement, like shocked. And I understand why Gorsuch is shocked. Gorsuch, my experience is the federal level, the higher you get in the level, the more professional you become. The lower you have, the local level, the state level, that's where you really get unaccountable, crazy behavior. I mean, nuts. And then if you go look, like you are in the Third Circuit, which I've had good experience. I had terrible experience at the DC Circuit, but the 11th Circuit and the Third Circuit, I've had very, very professional behavior. And, but so I went to look at all the complaints filed against judges in the Third Circuit. And everyone that complains doesn't know how to speak lawyer. Yeah. They just come in and rage, and you can't come in and rage and emote and act like it's a political hearing. That's not how they think. You've got to come in with cold facts and understand it's real hard. And
Like the Perkins Coie woman did in your courtroom.
oh my God, I knew she was good. I'm like, oh, this girl has no soul and no blood. And she is incredibly good. And she's simple.
Yeah.
Simple. And then she just through it all, she just tosses out latches. And the nonverbals, what's going on, right? Hi, Your Honor. We're a mega power. We are in power. We permeate the judiciary. We permeate your job promotion. We're a big fighter out here, and we'll see you in a later day. Don't mess with us. People wonder how law firms get so hugely powerful. It's scary. Eric Holder goes to Covington. Oh.
Well, it's like that. I don't know if you've seen that series Landman with Billy Bob Thornton. The woman in there, the attorney. I mean, it's exactly like that. I mean, you just walk in, boom. It was. I've never seen you so upset after that case got dismissed. I mean, I think you were really just shocked to your core.
Well, what was disgusted was this political guy. Who was the guy that was running for governor? Whatever his name, Vernon Jones.
Yeah.
His people are all over me. They want to be there. They want to meet before the hearing. They want to go to lunch. And then we have a podium out front with the media, and I'm supposed to give a statement. And
we had cameras set up. We were waiting.
Right. The judge flushes down the toilet, and Vernon Jones is gone in the wind. Shoom. And it's just like, wow. I mean, this was like.
And here comes Mike walking out of the courthouse with his briefcase, and nobody's there.
And I'm like, and these people aren't going to understand. I mean, I tell you, I'm sorry, but again. My mouth will get me in trouble, but I don't know many valedictorians or Ivy League people that go into journalism, right?
Yeah.
And the people that are really cracking the bell right now are not people that had a journalism undergrad, and there's not a lot of journalism jobs. And so, you're a journalist and you're supposed to speak truth to power, but you want to keep your poor paying job. These are not people that are taking risks or going after anything. You can't. That's why independent journalism is going on. Then you have to have money for that.
Yeah.
So what do I expect? I remember I sat when I was on trial for the FTC, and it was a 4-week trial, which we weren't, by the way, but which means nothing. You still lose your company and everything, and everyone runs away. When you're accused by the government, everybody runs away from you. And then when they realize they're wrong, they still run away because then they're embarrassed that they were wrong. But that's for another day. And I have this journalist comes up to me, and she's like in her late 20s, and she's been sitting there for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And she's been watching me bring in whistleblowers and blowing up the case. And there's a congressional investigation we announced. And, the judge is staying the case. And she comes up to me and she says, and her tone of voice was like, I think that the judge is mad at the government. And I just couldn't take anymore. I said, okay, so you've been here for 2 weeks and that's what you've got out of this? That the judge is mad at the government and you find that shocking? And my bigger picture is, okay, we are so in the hole with these people. Like, we're sitting here discussing calculus and they're back here going, okay, 1 + 1 is, what is it? They're just so far gone. And yet I understand that because I went to Washington. I was not naive, but I certainly was. I need to be less naive. I mean,
yeah.
I go into my hearing in front of House Oversight, and Senator Rockefeller is sending letters to the media, trashing my case and me 2 days before and reporting. I'm like, I've never met Rockefeller in my life. What is going on? And what they're doing is they're putting it's just another political ploy. They kill the press coverage, kill the press coverage, kill the press coverage. And they did.
Yeah. Which is why they hate us, to wrap that up.
Right.
But I know you got a busy business to run, so I'll let you go. But I want to have you back because I think this story is going to continue to percolate with the Trump administration.
Oh, we have a lot of educating to do with the poor people. I don't mean to scare you folks, but we're not going to get anywhere by pretending there's not a boogeyman.
No, we have to. And free media is key. So thank you, Mike. Enjoy your day, and hope you get your patients taken care of.
Okay, thank you. See you. Bye.